So we've talked about Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and his Moneyball approach to free agency, but it's also going to apply to the draft. Now, to a degree, maybe we're romanticizing things because we're a big fan of Michael Lewis's book as well as the movie, and we think that it can work in the National Football League where you build this team around value, and we'll see what happens. But like we said, it will apply to free agency as well as the draft because in the book, the Oakland A's drafted a catcher from Alabama who did not have a baseball body, shall we say. They made him a first-round pick when a lot of people thought that he was going to go mid-rounds, maybe even undrafted. But what they focus on Moneyball is, can you get on base? Like, that is what they focus on. Now, with football, with different positions, there's lots of different variables. But basically, can this player play? You know, that's the question that you have to ask yourself about all these guys. Now, draft picks will rise and fall based on what they do in the Underwear Olympics. It's the most inexact science out there. And, of course, everyone is jacked up about the 6'6" dude, 260 pounds, who runs a 4.35, right? Everyone's going to be all up on that. But can they play? And not every dude who does that can play. And draft picks are going to fall because they didn't show well at the Underwear Olympics, if they're even invited. They're not tall. They're not long enough. They're not from a big school. There's injury concerns. So a lot of good football players are going to fall through the cracks and the crevices, and the Vikings need to be hoovering them up, hence the Moneyball aspect for the draft, because players with second-round talent will fall into day 3 because they don't check all the boxes, or guys who should be 5th or 6th rounders will be going undrafted and may not even get a shot. Value in other teams' biases is where the Vikings can make their bones, because you can have an island of misfit toys, but guess what? They can ball, man. That's right. And you can find value in the margins because everyone can play pocket aces, but can you bring it home with 7-4 clubs? I think Kwesi and company can. And even looking back at the last 2 Browns drafts, there's a lot of times where other teams' biases greatly benefited the Browns. Like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah probably should have been a draft pick in the teens. He fell all the way to 52 because teams didn't know, is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? And he's going to be a stud going forward. Same thing with Anthony Schwartz. Speed for days, but frame questions, etc. James Hudson fell. Demetric Felton didn't check all the boxes, even though he was a prime stud at UCLA. Already has 2 receiving touchdowns and looks to be a very solid third down back for the Browns. And even the year before, last 2 years that Kwesi was involved in the draft with the Browns. Jedrick Wills, there's big questions. Like, he played right tackle at Alabama. Can he switch over to the blind side? It's certainly worked out extremely well. Also, Nick Harris, who was one of my favorite guys in that draft, undersized center, perfect for the zone scheme, coming out of Washington. And now, after they let go J.C. Treader, he looks to be the starting center on one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League. Also, DPJ, who didn't check all the boxes, coming out of Michigan, and now he's one of the larger contributing receivers that are still left with the Browns. So you can find all of this value, all of this insaneness of where teams just overlook. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, that one pisses me off the most. He should have been drafted in the teens because the dude can play. It's not his fault that he's not 20 pounds heavier to be a linebacker. It's not his fault that he's slightly too heavy to be a safety. It just didn't make any sense at all. So now, long story longer, we're going to get into 5 players that could be scooped up for the Vikings Moneyball approach and a couple reasons why they're falling. Up at the top. So I got quarterback Carson Strong coming out of Nevada. Now, I cannot quit Carson Strong. And we've said the quarterbacks in this draft, sort of whatever. But the more film that I watch from Carson Strong, just... man, 6'3", 226, rocket arm. Yeah, everyone's hyping up Malik Willis's arm. Carson Strong's arm is stronger. It is. Now, there's some issues with his touch, etc., but 2-time Mountain West Player of the Year. Knee issues are certainly up there. Level of competition is certainly up there as well, but that didn't matter for Josh Allen coming out of the Mountain West. It's sort of the same thing, but his mobility, it could be a deal breaker because I don't think that right knee is getting better anytime soon, but he should and could be, if that knee was healthy, he should and could be in with the big 5 quarterbacks that potentially could go in the top 50 picks, but he isn't, so he potentially could fall to the 3rd round. Maybe the Vikings scoop him up at 77. Next up, number 2 Moneyball draft picks for the Vikings. Wide receiver Traylon Burks coming out of Arkansas. Now, I do think that Traylon Burks is the best wide receiver in this class. If you discount Jameson Williams and his knee, yeah, I think Traylon Burks is that guy. But everyone and their mom just fell out of love with him after a very marginal combine. I mean, he's 6'2", 225. He ran a 4.55 40, as well as only had a 33-inch vert and a 10-foot, 2-inch broad jump. But still, first team all SEC, 66 catches, 1,104 yards receiving, 11 touchdowns. Dude just fights for every single ball, leaves it on the field every single time. He is A.J. Brown redux, and he can just get after it. And I know Vikings fans will be like, well, Laquan Treadwell was a big, slow receiver who also had 1,000 yards in the SEC. Don't care. I don't care. Traylon Burks is an absolute monster, and there's some mocks that have him falling out of the first round. If somehow, some way, he makes it to the top of the second round, the Vikings need to maneuver up from 46 and go get him, because I think that he is wide receiver 1 talent in this class. I think that he should be a top 15 pick, but I doubt that he will because he didn't check all those boxes. Next up, Moneyball draft pick number 3 for the Vikings. Ali Fayed, edge rusher out of Western Michigan, 7th round pick. Now, he's coming in as a tweener because he is legitimately 6 foot 248, as well as did not test well. Because, you can be a small tweener, a small sub-package guy rushing from the outside linebacker if you're fast, but he's not. He also ran a 4.89. But tape speed, he's just got football speed. It's one of those things where in shorts and shoes and shorts and track spikes, whatever, running in a straight line, maybe he doesn't test well, but instinctually on the field, he's got good bend, he can get the edge, he can do all these things, and he can just get to the quarterback, and that has value. He racked up 12 sacks, 17 tackles for loss, 58 pressures, and an 85 PFF grade last season. Now, yes, caliber competition in the MAC, that's certainly a question, but I think Fayed is going to come in with a chip on his shoulder if he's picked up as a 7th round or a priority UDFA, a guy who could work his way up from special teams, and the Vikings move to an odd front. I think Fayed, as a rotational, situational pass rusher, could have some value. Next up, Moneyball pick number 4 for the Vikings in the draft. Cornerback Roger Mccreary coming out of Auburn. Now, the more I scratch this kid's lotto ticket, the more that I think that he might be the jackpot. Now, he's probably going to go in the 2nd round. He may be the 6th, 7th corner taken, somewhere in there. But he's 5'11", $190, so he's small. He ran a 4.5 40, which is slowish, as well as he only has 28 and 7/8 inch arms, so he's not long at all. Now, generally, what teams will do with short cornerbacks is just try and toss him into the slot. But kid is an outside corner. Like, he certainly could play slot, but he is a guy on the outside. He's got great instincts, as well as he's feisty, will get after it. He's not like an a-hole like Cortland Finnegan, but in terms of feistiness and in terms of getting underneath the skin of other wide receivers, he can do it. He can. First team All-American, 14 passes broken up in 2021, 57.8 quarterback rating when thrown at. Kid's a player. Yeah, but he's going to fall because he doesn't have the length of Sauce. He doesn't have the length of Kyra Lam. He doesn't have all the measurables of Stingley. So it is what it is at this point. And frankly, if it gets to 46, if the Vikings don't go cornerback at 12, I think that he would be a hell of a great value in the 2nd round. Lastly, Moneyball pick number 5 for the Vikings. This one's going to be controversial. So tight end Jalen Whittemire from Texas A&M Gig'em. Now, he's a guy who potentially could have been tight end 1 if he had tested better. But now, I mean, there's talk about him going undrafted, which is shocking. You're going from a potential, top 50 pick to, because his testing was that horrible. What was that putrid? And yes, he doesn't check all those boxes, but again, you have to sync up what you see at the combine and a pro day versus what you see on tape. And Whittemire can move. He is a very solid move tight end. Blocking does need some work, but second team all SEC in 2021, 6'4", 255. He's got great size, great wingspan as well. Put up 40 catches, 515 yards, and 4 touchdowns on 70 targets for the Aggies last season. Also, beep pop up a boop. He had 12 total touchdowns from 2019-2020 with Kellen Mond, the Vikings' potential quarterback of the future, just hanging out, chilling on the rooster. Now, the Vikings could definitely use some freshening at tight end, especially that tight end 2 spot. And you could get a guy who was, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, seen as a potential 2nd, 3rd round pick, definitely a day 2 guy. And now you're getting him as maybe in the 7th round, maybe as a priority UDFA. Toss him $50K as a signing bonus. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Also, he has chemistry with a guy that he's going to be working with in Kellen Mond in terms of working with the third team. Yes, makes all the sense in the world. But that's it. Let's take a look at 5 Moneyball draft picks for the Vikings, guys that have a lot of talent but are falling for various reasons. Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work, put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skull, production value.